The Hangout on Air is live. Okay. Yay! Have yourself a very witchy Vlogmas. Day 3! 3 in a row. I'm on a roll. How are you, Stardust Mama? Hi. Thank you. Love and light to you. Hey, how are you guys? I'm echoing your question back at you. How are you? I need to lean down so you can see this whole situation. This is what happened when I washed my face this morning. I just put my hair up and I looked at it. I was like, oh, that's very Chrissy Snow. So I am doing the full 70s Three's Company thing today because it cracked me up. I just decided to leave it like this weird. Did anybody watch Three's Company back in the day? Come and knock on my door. We've been waiting for you. Where the kisses are hers and his. Three's Company too. Hi, how are you? Yay. So I guess that, oh God. See now, I gotta lean down. I want you to see my owl, but also the camera grabs boobs. It's boob grabber. Whatever's closest to the camera shows up large. So I really have the Chrissy thing going on today with the blonde hair and the boobs and the whole outfit and everything. Loved that show. Yeah, it was I wasn't allowed to watch it, but when I was little, there weren't very many TV channels, so we were aware of what was on. So I would sneak it every time I could, and I loved it. I used to, when I was a little kid, instead of playing house, like with a baby, I would play roommates. And I was a pretty bossy little kid, so whoever was playing with me was my roommate. Let's be roommates. Roommates in the city. That was like my thing. I'm just going to sit here and kind of chit chat with you to see if anybody else joins us, but it is a Monday and some people have to work. I don't know what that's about. What is that about? I'm actually, this is just the second live stream I've done here at 8:30 in the morning, but I actually kind of feel myself acclimating to it already, like getting ready in the morning to show up on camera. It reminds me of when I worked at Warner Brothers, which is the only job I've ever had as an adult. I had jobs as a teenager and I guess my super early 20s where I would have to be somewhere at a certain time looking presentable. And when I worked at Natural Energy Lab, which was a music marketing firm, the hours were not they were pretty chill. But Warner Brothers, I had to be there, I think at 8:30, and I was always late. And I always had a Starbucks cup, which, people would raise their eyeballs or their eyebrows okay, so you're late, but you have Starbucks. It's like self-implicating to walk in late carrying your Starbucks cup, but I needed the fuel to survive, I'm going to share with you too, while I just chit chat here at the beginning. We're going to be talking about, let's read the title properly. Shadow work is a light worker's jam. And for a long time, the term light worker did not resonate with me at all until I started thinking about it in that way, that shadow work is actually light work, because what we're doing is we're shining a light on the shadows to illuminate what is in there. And once I made that connection, I was like, okay, I can get with this. I don't call myself a light worker, but a lot of people do. And I was like, okay, I can get with that label. They say the late people are the clever people. Well, I am so clever. I have racked up a lot of clever in my day. But what I wanted to do too before we got rolling, just so people have time to pop in here, I want to share today's card. I've been working with the Oracle card, which makes a big liar out of me, because for years I would say I don't really like Oracle decks. I only work with the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. Here, let me hold it more still for you. But this one is beautiful. It's Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reed. Here's the back of the cards if you care. You know me and the colors. I like really bright colors. But this card piece was very, very much in alignment with what I wanted to talk about, because to me, the point of doing shadow work is it creates a deeper sense of self-love. It's a very nice thing to do for yourself because it generates this deep sense of inner peace. Like, it's about not suffering. And to me, that's how I see it. And the little like essential meaning, she has multiple meanings in the book here for, you know, the prosperity message, the relationship message, a protection message, like whatever you're pulling cards for, she tried to address that particular angle. But the essential meaning is freedom from attachment and radical acceptance. And I was like, that's a shadow work thing. Freedom from attachment to old patterns of behavior, old stories that you tell yourself, old fears that no longer serve you. I think that fear, a lot of times fear is born by necessity to keep ourselves safe. You know, like don't touch the hot stove, for example, right? If you grow up in an abusive home, you develop a certain toolbox of behaviors to survive, you know, and it depends on what kind of abuse it is. But children interpret, even just like someone who's criticizing them all the time. If you have a really critical parent, that's a form of abuse. You're chipping away at the person. And so they develop all of these coping mechanisms that serve them in the moment, kind of. The point is to stay safe, and your subconscious is the lizard brain. It's always like about survival. So these things are born way, way back in the day to keep you safe, but then they're completely illogical and counterproductive as you become an adult. And that's where a lot of our problems come from. Because let's say if you grew up in a very critical home, you would be very, very insecure, and insecure people. I think we're all insecure to some degree or the other about different things. And if you think of the word insecure, you don't feel secure. You don't feel safe. So it's about protecting yourself, right? But you can like overprotect yourself to the point where it ruins your career, your financial situation, your friendships, your romances. It can create a really off-putting persona that people don't understand. And so again, like abuse doesn't have to mean someone punching you in the face. Although that is very, very extreme and will do damage in a different way. But I just wanted to use being critical as an example because children are so vulnerable to these things. And when I talk about programming, like the programs that were put in place, that's one of them. That's one of them. The ways that you protected yourself, the ways that you were trained to protect yourself. I got to rip off the big poofy socks. Sorry. I have sweatpants on, big poofy socks. And this, because I wanted to keep up with my Three's Company thing. This sweater is the warmest sweater ever, ever, ever. I might start sweating here soon. But what I wanted to say on going back to that train of thought too, was that one of the best, most beautiful things about getting in touch with some of the content of your shadow, which is the subconscious part of your mind that involves the rejected parts of yourselves, the parts that have been deemed unacceptable, that have been pushed down into the subconscious mind out of your awareness. Once you learn to have compassion for those parts of yourself and to integrate them into who you are in a more empowering way, you actually develop compassion for other people. So when you see, let's say if you had a lot of insecurities and you had all of these ways of defending yourself and trying to keep yourself safe, when you see someone, the other people are like, ugh, she is so gross, she is so insecure, you end up having compassion for that person because you know where she's coming from. And to me, this kind of circles back around to this idea of love and light. Because if you go through that journey, and to me, like shadow work is ongoing. It's all the time. Is it because I have like an extra dark shadow? I don't know. There are people that say the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And there is something to that for sure. But some people, it depends on what day you get me. It depends on how you're meeting me and how you're experiencing me. But I'm a person that puts out a lot of love and light. But a lot of that was the byproduct of learning to have compassion for myself. And then once you do that, you start to have compassion for other people, and you don't want to be the part of their day that is making them feel worse about themselves. You want to be the part of the day that makes them feel like you're okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's not as bad as you think. You're not as bad as you think. Hello, peeps in chat. Hi, everybody. Is it possible that spiritual bypass is part of this cycle? Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of times people land on like The Secret, or they listen maybe to Abraham Hicks without really listening in a way that is comprehensive. Because if you listen to Abraham Hicks carefully, you will hear all of this within what she's talking about. But I think people mistake like the law of attraction, for example, is like, if I'm just positive all the time, it becomes about like positive thinking. And people that hate the law of attraction hate this about it because they only have a surface understanding of what it is. You know, they saw a commercial for The Secret or something, or they have a friend who is in that phase of spiritual bypass where they think they can never have a negative thought or a negative feeling. And it doesn't really work like that. To me, like those so-called negative thoughts and negative feelings are opportunities. They're gifts. They're little triggers that you choose to respond to either by shoving it down into the shadows or by bringing it to light and be like, I feel really insecure about that. Wow, I did not know I felt that way. Okay, well, what can I choose now having that knowledge about myself? So if you spend a lot of time in spiritual bypass, you find out this isn't really serving me. It's not working. And a lot of people get into magic, the law of attraction, this positive thinking thing, because they're seeing like, they think it's a game kind of that you can win and that you will be rewarded with all the stuff you want. It's like a manifestation thing. If I'm positive and happy all the time, only awesome things will happen to me. And then when they're positive and happy all the time and they deny all their feelings and they try their hardest never to have a negative thought and bad things keep happening to them, they're like, fuck this shit. This is all bullshit. And all you people that told me that suck. So then, you know, that can be a part of your journey. That could totally be a phase where you start maybe asking more questions like, okay, so if this isn't the answer to creating the kick-ass life of my dreams, what is? Or just to have a sense of peace. It's incredible how many people suffer every day. They suffer when they wake up. They don't want to get up. They don't want to go to bed or get out of bed. They don't want to go to work because they're suffering. They hate their lives. They hate certain aspects of their lives. And I think if you hate your life, in a way, you're hating yourself. And that's also why I often tell people, if you're having a hard time with affirmations like, I love myself, I love and approve of myself, that can sound really cheesy to some people, but also it can be difficult to say, I love myself, if you've been taught that loving yourself is selfish and wrong. So I like to encourage people to use the affirmation like, I love my life. I love my life. And then like really getting into the feeling of like, what is it to love your life? What does it feel like to love your life? And if it's not a match, if you're like, I actually don't love it, then that becomes your practice. I think it's hard to, okay, so I'm going to read some questions here. Tanya, I think it's hard to have compassion for all people. That's part of the work. I don't think the shadow work is meant to be a once in a lifetime thing. Heck no, not in my experience anyway. That's why I say I'm doing it all the time. I'm full of it. I'm full of baloney. I don't know. So much fear. Fear is one of my favorite subjects. Because for me, a lot of what's hanging out in there is fear. Keep in mind, so 100 days at a time, 100 days at a time says, keep in mind that you have no control over somebody else's filters, how they perceive. I've had times when I know I was loving and positive to a person, and from their side, it was a completely different story. You're so right. And the word filter is a good one. If you literally think of it as like a filter, like a camera filter or a lens, like people can only see what their filter or lens allows them to see. They're wearing a purple lens. Everything looks purple. Everything looks purple. So if somebody is trying to help them, you know, like they're about to cross the street into busy traffic and someone's like, oh, there's a crosswalk right over there. A person with the purple lenses is like, don't tell me what to do. People are always criticizing me, think I don't know what to do. And then they walk right into traffic and get hit by a car because the purple lens, it's that defense mechanism. It's the way they protect themselves and keep themselves safe. And so all like well-meaning, like, hey, don't step out in front of the cars. You'll get hit by a car is interpreted. That's just an example. This could present in a jillion different ways. That's just what came to me first. And what really got me thinking about filters and lenses was several years back, a few years back, Robert Ohado was talking about channeling, the work of channels. Because you'll find some channels have a very Jesus-oriented presentation, and that's because they're wearing the Jesus filter. So all this, they're tapping in to this divine wisdom. They're maybe tapping into their higher self or God or source energy. And these messages are really coming from that source, but they have to fit through this Jesus-shaped funnel because that's their programming. That's their understanding of the world. That's how they see things. So, you know, when I say quality, I'm not talking about better or worse. I'm talking about flavor. The quality of channeled information is going to be a reflection of what filter or lens or funnel that information is coming through. And then the same is true just for us as we're interacting with each other and experiencing each other. That's why people make such great mirrors, like mirror work is an awesome part of shadow work too. Like when you see somebody doing something that really pushes your buttons and you have a judgment on, that is mirroring back at you something that you have a judgment on about yourself. So if you're a shadow worker or a light worker, you might be a person who says like, why does that bug me so much? Like, and how is that reflecting back at me something I don't like about myself? So maybe this person is a liar. Like, you know, they're lying their ass off and it bugs you. It bugs you. It bugs you. It bugs you. It could be totally, they're not lying about something that's harming you. Maybe they're a person that lies to make themselves look better because they're insecure. It doesn't have to be like, you know, they're lying to get away from, you know, get away with some evil thing. It could just be they lie a lot to make themselves feel better, but then it pushes your buttons and it like enrages you. That doesn't enrage everyone. If something is being mirrored back at you that gives you a sense of rage, it really pushes your buttons, or it gets you on a mind loop or you're thinking about it 3 days later, to me, that's an opportunity to explore your shadow and say, in what ways am I lying? And your first instinct, because the shadow is It's subconscious, it's unconscious, it's not in your conscious awareness. You don't know it's there. That's the whole point in doing shadow work, is to dig around and kind of trick yourself into seeing what is out of sight. So at your first reaction might be like, I never lie. One of my deepest values is to always tell the truth, you know, but you keep hanging with it. Is that true? Is that really true? And then you start like being like, well, I tell white lies sometimes because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Or how am I lying to myself? That's a big one. And then you're off and running. Then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you're like listing all these ways you lie to yourself. And that's kind of, to me, that's how shadow work is. And it's kind of like, you know, when you're driving your car, shadow work lends itself very well to metaphors, because again, I mean, metaphors and symbols and mirror work and all these things, they're ways of understanding things that are so beyond our current level of understanding. It's like we're driving around in these cars, and everybody learns when you first learn to drive a car that you have a blind spot. So you need to look behind you before you change lanes, because your mirror has a blind spot. You're not always seeing that there's a car coming up on you. So you have to look. I think that most people, our blind spot is like huge. We're actually only seeing like this tiny reality. Is so small. It fits into the size of like a mirror this big, but the reality is like massive. Your blind spot is huge. And I've used so many metaphors over the years talking about shadow work. Deep soul diving, I call it a lot, like deep diving, and you come up with a pearl. You know, you dive down into the darkest, deepest depths to emerge with a pearl. It's like going mining in the dark, dark cave and coming out with a gem or some precious resource of some kind. Oh, I'm knocking things down. I'm going to be, in the spirit of giving, I'm going to do some giveaways during Vlogmas. And today, this week, I'm going to be doing a $10 off Shadow Love, because this is by far the most successful thing I've ever done. It's the thing that people write to me the most and say, I love Shadow Love, this audio journey I created. So I put it down below for 1 week, for just this week. You can get $10 off. What is the code? Vlogmas 3. When you put Vlogmas 3, it will give you $10 off. But what made me think of that is a metaphor I talk about in the Shadow Love program that was it just occurred to me. And it's one that I really like, that's been very helpful, is a feral cat. When you're trying to make friends with a feral cat, oh my goodness, how long does it take? How much time does it take? Because the feral cat doesn't trust you. The feral cat is afraid. So I won't get into that entirely, but if you think about it, you have to kind of seduce the cat, you know? Like you have to leave the food out and go back in your house and like peek through the curtains, you know, and it takes the cat a long time before he'll like come around and take a little bit of food. And slowly over time, maybe you move the can of food closer and closer to your house until eventually one day, maybe the cat will let you pet its head while it's eating the food. And it's a huge, long process. And I think the shadow can be like that too. And because our souls, I believe, and our subconscious minds, they don't speak our language. They speak metaphorically. They speak in symbols. I think that talking that way about it is really, really helpful, because like when you say shadow work, for somebody who has never encountered that idea before, it's like, what in the heck is that? You new agey people. But to me, it's like foundational. And it's how much shadow work you're willing to do, how much you're willing to look at those rejected, unacceptable parts of yourself, is how deeply you can love yourself. And that's why I called that program Shadow Love, because it's the most loving thing you can do. And again, that self-love is then reflected in how you treat other people. Hi, Melissa. Hi. To me today, like, I'm home today because of this exact thing, Tracy. Are you talking about not wanting to go to work? I think maybe that's about not wanting to go to work. I'm going to scroll up. Early detection system. I love that. That's a great way to think about like the ongoing shadow work. And that takes awareness and it takes time. You're full of awesome words and terms here. Spiritual hygiene. Yes, totally. I'm down with it. You have to feel it to heal it, or so a great teacher says. Yes, Crystal, thank you. Wow, hi everybody. Am I saying your name right? Rakenmaru? Me with names, I'm so bad with the names. Some of these metaphors do lend to some great imagery for short meditations. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think that your imagination is one of the most powerful things that you have. There's something I really want to talk about called a mind garden. And it's something you really have to invest energy in, but it's using your imagination to tend to the various aspects of your life. And it's another metaphor. And how off on a tangent do I want to get on metaphors? I think sometimes metaphors and symbolism, they're so useful, they're so helpful. And then like a dogma develops around them where people start taking them literally. I was just talking about this with like the lizard people. The lizard people of the Illuminati become like literal figures to where people believe that these are real lizard people. Maybe they are. Who knows? What do I know? But I believe we talk about like this so-called Illuminati and these lizard people in that way because we're talking about the lizard brain, which is all about survival. And a person that's operating from that space is going to be really focused on power over instead of power within. And somebody who's really, really focused on power over and has a lot of connections, a lot of ambition, a lot of drive, maybe a bit of luck, they might go on to become one of these really, really financially, politically powerful people. Not that they're fulfilled, not that they're happy. That doesn't necessarily mean that. But if they're coming from the lizard brain, it's all about like power over because that's a place of fear. Power over is the product of fear. There's not enough to go around. I have to control everybody for me to be safe. Trying to control other people, trying to control the globe, the whole world, is about fear. It's about fear. And to me, speaking of metaphors, I like the metaphor that God, I think God is both because God is everything. But I like the metaphor that God or Jesus or whatever you're into, the goddess is love and the devil or evil or whatever you're seeing it is fear. Because of that polarity right there, it's easy to understand. Not that everything is so black and white. There's a spectrum for sure between the two, but just speaking in black and white terms like that, it's easy to understand. If you're a creative, like artsy person and you've ever worked with black and white photography or illustration, like I'm an illustrator. I do a lot of black ink on white paper. You get to understand that whatever image you're creating, it's really how well you can balance the white and the black. And it becomes about like white space, even when you're working with black ink. So when you first start, you think it's all about like what you're doing with the black ink. But then when you step back and you get a bigger picture, you start realizing how important the white space is because the black ink is what's defining the white space. So in that way, black defines white defines black, light defines dark, dark defines light. Neil Donald Walsh has a book called Conversations with God that I also mentioned this book recently because it's a book that really offended me and intrigued me at the same time when it first came out. And I read it because the way he was talking about God, he was having this conversation with God. I don't know if you would consider this book channeled material, but it's very much like the channeled material I've read. And he believes that God was speaking to him and answering his questions. And that's what this book is made up of. And when he's describing what God is, and this is something you'll find in some Eastern philosophies and in some witchcraft books and things like that too. It's about God wanted to experience itself. It was perfect. Everything was perfect. But also it couldn't experience itself because God was all that is. So God created us, this planet, something so God could experience itself. And in doing that, it had to create darkness. It had to create fear because you can't experience love if there is not fear. We wouldn't even have a word for love if there was not fear. We wouldn't have a word for light if there was no darkness. And it's that contrast, that shapes every life, right? And again, it's this spectrum and we're all so unique. So we're going to interpret those light and shadows in different ways. And in that way, your life, like the illustration I was talking about, becomes the white space as you're working with the black ink. Am I talking way too out there? I need to like check in with you all to make sure. Please tell me if I've lost you guys or if you're actually following me, because I can get a little, I don't know, I have a stoner brain or something. I don't know. My mind just likes to be like, wow, man, and consider all of these concepts. And I can go on and on and on about it. I was listening to Jackie Dubois. One of you commented on my first Vlogmas video, like, Jackie's still making videos. And I totally know that. And I pop in to watch her every now and then. And I watched 2.5 of her videos. She did one on why she became a fruitarian. And then the other, I got only like 20 minutes through before I had to shut my computer down. But she did a Vlogmas offering. And Jackie is one of those people that she said she's always flapping her gums. And I'm like, I totally relate because I love to talk about this stuff so much so that I have no idea if I'm connecting with people because I just start enjoying. It becomes like masturbatory, I don't know, theorizing. It just starts kind of going, woo, like way off the rails. Jackie's really fun to listen to because she has, I think her channel here is Moon Mother Monastery, for those of you who don't know who she is, but she's been obsessed with God and magic for decades. So she can pull in all these different things, astrological, tarot, herbalism, you name it, all the different religions that she's explored. And I'm very much like that to a degree, but Jackie's like super, super like that. And she's got a couple decades on me. So listening to her, she really can't just flap her gums and go, and make all these connections. And that's the fun of watching Jackie Dubois. Okay, I am fine. You got it. Yay. Following mostly. Ask me anything. I would love it if you guys too would put in the comments section or somewhere here, what do you want me to talk about? I'm going to be doing a lot of these love streams. We're calling them love streams instead of live streams. I'm going to be doing a lot of these mainly on the weekdays here for Vlogmas. And I had that feeling of like, what if I run out of things to talk about? I don't think that's possible because I never shut up, but I would love to customize this to you all. Like, what do you want me to talk about? What topic? Ask me a question and I will make a Vlogmas video for you. For real. Please do. We love all the strings of thought, ha ha ha, like leaping from vine to vine in the jungle, like Tarzan. Woman, you're speaking my language, because that in and of itself is a metaphor. Ann Arwen, I'm listening while cooking, so not commenting, but following along. Hi, hello there. I'm a big listening while cooking person. I love that. So I have mentioned everything I was going to mention. These are my little scribbles that I did this morning when I first woke up. I like to lay in bed for a little bit, but I might wrap this one up early unless you guys have some questions for me or you want to talk about some stuff. Personally going through a lot of anxiety and transformation. Would love more law of attraction and vibration in terms from recovery of anxiety and depression. Okay, I'll address anxiety and depression. I will make a special video of that. But I did think of something I wanted to talk about just reading your question there. How do I say your name if I want to give you credit? Ratchpunk 1982? Are you a Rachel? Anxiety and depression from Tracy. We got vote number 2. I will definitely make a video about anxiety and depression because that's something I have a lot of experience with. But something that reminded me of too is I work with women a lot. I do the Queen program, but also one-on-one coaching. Women get into these situations, which is something I have experience with, where they get into marriages and romantic relationships with men who are toxic for them, who are abusive to them in some way, in different ways, like these bad boys. They get with the bad boys. And I think this is a shadow thing. Because it's always the sweetest, nicest, good girls. They have great jobs. They're awesome moms in a lot of cases. These are women that are queens. They just don't know it yet. They're amazing. They're amazing. And these bad boys seem to gravitate toward them. I believe it's because, and they gravitate to the bad boys. I believe this is a soul contract. If you find yourself in a situation like this, if you know you're in a toxic situation, in a codependent relationship, and you can't get out, this is shadow work time. Because I think what is happening for a lot of us when this starts going on is, well, it goes back to our childhood and acting out, you know, old programs from our childhood. But I think what happens is we are attracted to these men, or it could be the other way around if you're a man in this situation, or if you're gay. And it's not about men and women. It's about relationships. This can also happen with a boss and an employee, or with friends. But I'm just going to use a woman in a heterosexual relationship as my example. So what's happening is the man that she's with, her spouse, her boyfriend, is fully embodying in a really grotesque, obnoxious, like, hey, way, her own shadow, the parts of herself that are rejected. And if she could learn to do a bit of shadow work around that, find those pieces and integrate them into her own personality and learn to love those pieces of herself in an empowering way. An empowering way. It's not about like, he's a dick, so I guess I should be a dick. It's like, what do I love? Why am I so attracted to this? And if you've been around the block a few times, you can start to see the patterns. I always pick men who do this thing or have this quality. I would almost guarantee you that's because you have that quality in you suppressed. It's something that you have pushed down so you can live this good girl image, which it goes back both ways too. You're reflecting the light at this guy and he's attracted to you, even though a lot of times these people will pick on your light. It's because you're reflecting the light that they've pushed down in themselves. The shadow is, it's not just the bad things about you. There are so many gifts in there. So much of your greatest talents, your purpose, your gifts are in the shadows as well. There's tons of gold in there, not just in the things that you find shameful, that you've repressed that are kind of ugly, but also the things about you that are like your natural gifts that other people felt threatened by and that you pushed down there. So it's fascinating. Tanya, this is a big thing, and I'm not sure, but I think it's largely a product of society. Swan of Dreamers, hi. She has a great blog, Swan of Dreamers, if you guys want to go check out her channel. Rocky marriages, I think, help you deal with your shadow side. I really, truly believe that. And I've experienced that myself in a really powerful way. And that's why I think a lot of people say, oh, that was the best thing that happened to me, when it was like hell at the time. But in those ways, those relationships are soul contracts. They are bringing you through a process that you need to go through in order to completely be who you are. And the saddest thing is to see someone who never, ever gets that and just keeps repeating the same relationship again and again and again and again and again. I think Iyanla Van Sant, she says, it's the same man in a different pair of pants. You know, there are people that will go to the grave continually picking the same man in a different pair of pants, but they're missing the opportunity. And if you think that the universe or God or source is like giving you this opportunity as a gift, it's not a punishment. You can accept it and receive it and get on with it, and get on with loving yourself and living a more peaceful life and not suffering. I don't believe that we are meant to suffer. I do believe that life is challenging, that we will fail sometimes, that we will be surprised by heartbreaking things. I think that's part of the human condition, but it's up to us if we're going to suffer or not, if we're going to dwell in the suffering, or if we're going to move through it and continually get back to a place of peace. It's a choice and it's a practice. Yes, my last few relationships have been just that, Melissa. I like the quotations. Tiffany, I love hearing how you incorporate your family, Tanner, into your practice, like rolling the oranges out of the door. Yay, people mention that a lot. I should talk about stuff like that more. I have a 3-year-old and love the experience of seeing magic through his eyes. That is so sweet. Well, rolling oranges with 3-year-olds is totally possible, and they're the perfect age to start doing that. And that was something that we did around the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, but it'd be awesome to do too, just for like the secular New Year, to roll the good luck into your house. Okay, so maybe you're asking, that's a video request. You're asking for fun things that you can do with your kids, maybe. After abuse, how do you find self-love? I think I need to write these down as video topics, because that's deep. Like my mind just went, ah! There's another hour of conversation. So I'll write that down for sure as a video request. Thank you, Jeannie. Yeah, people, this is so ongoing. And we're all, that's another thing that gives me a lot of compassion for people, is we all have our own struggles going on. And I recognize that. Nothing has shown me that more than doing coaching too, because I think my coaching clients are my peers. They often are. They're often women that like have their own businesses. They have a lot going on, but then they have this one issue, and it's a big one. It's a big issue, you know, and then they tend to make themselves wrong or feel like embarrassed about it or whatever. But there's no shame in being human, because we're all human. We all have stuff like this going on to varying degrees, you know, depending on the time in our life. Dreams are a really great signal of the shadowscape. I love the term shadowscape, by the way. The shadowscape trying to tell you something. Anxiety and stress are really telling in dreams. Yeah, and sometimes they're just telling you that you need to take care of yourself and maybe take some time off from something that's stressing you out. And then sometimes it's like a real mental health issue. And that's where this idea of like, know thyself comes into play, because you know, anxiety and depression for one person is just like they've run themselves ragged and burnt out their adrenal glands. And why are they doing that? That's probably going to be some shadow issue, right? And then for other people, it could be a chemical imbalance because they have a food sensitivity, or they were maybe born with it, like some kind of chemical imbalance. So again, with the spectrum. And Arwen, there's a whole big thing of feeling guilty when you finally say no and put boundaries in place. It's so hard. Yes. Yes. That's one of the installments for the Queen program too. It's like women struggle with this a lot. We're taught to be pleasers. We are literally trained by society. Even if your family's not like this, the greater society, the society at large is, and younger women don't have this as much. I think the older you are, the more you grew up in that. It's definitely changing. And I see like younger generations are breaking free of a lot of these old patterns. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see, for sure. What is the Queen program? The best way to answer that is there's a link down below where you can do a free 3-day video series called You Are a Queen. And that'll definitely introduce you to the concept, which is working with the queen as an archetype and seeing yourself as the queen of your own life. And it's a totally free series. And I linked to it down under this video. And but then there's a program, like at the beginning of the year for the new year, there's going to be a group of us who are working with the queen archetype so we can kick off 2019 as, 2019, the year of the queen, as the queen of our own lives. We talk about money, we talk about relationships, we talk about friendships, not just romantic relationships, but friendships, which is a big one for women. And I love the idea of kicking off a new year, just feeling like super empowered. And it's a 5-week journey. So it just gives you a lot of momentum as you're going into the new year. So I'm excited to do it. I can't wait to do it. I'm so down. Okay, we'll do the free video series, and then you'll start getting other emails that are like, hey, you want to join us for the Queen program? I want to be my 70-year-old sassy lady now. Yes. That's why I started calling myself a witch. And I'm not kidding. I thought I could do that when I was a little old lady. Maybe, then I wouldn't be upsetting my parents because maybe they wouldn't be here anymore. But also I think when you're a little old lady, you can get away with so much. You can get away with so much. And I thought, I could get away with calling myself a witch when I'm an old lady because people will just be like, there's Aunt Joe, like being Aunt Joe, but I realized, like, why not do it now? This is my life now. And what would that look like? And what would that feel like? And it's one of the best decisions I made because I wouldn't know you all otherwise. Yes, you need to join the Queen program. Yes, I love it. I'm extremely proud of it. And you will definitely hear me talking more about it. And I'm doing it myself. That's one of the things I love to do too, is to do all the installments myself. It's mostly audio with some video sprinkled in. And then for those of you who want to be on Facebook, there's a private Facebook group where you can talk about whatever you're working on in the context of the group. So having said that, I am very, very warm and I'm going to go, but I hope you'll be back here at 8:30 to talk to me. If you liked this, share it somewhere. Tell people so I can keep the momentum. I'm doing VLOGMAS for 20 days and I am super excited that you all showed up to hang out with me here. But in the back of my mind, it's like every day I'm like, will the people come? Will they show up? Will I be talking to myself? I don't know. But here you are. And it was so much fun. I hope you all have an amazing day and that the holidays are treating you very well so far. Until we meet again. Much love. Peace.